Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Truth Seekers Radio podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kenny Williamson. Today, we're going to go over something that I like to go over a lot, and I've done in the past, and so why not do it again? Today, we're going to cover a little bit about space, Mars in particular, but we're going to do it because I get a subscription to a magazine, which a lot of you know this, a Prophecy Watchers magazine, and it is a religious-based magazine that's supposed to be talking about prophecy and end times, that kind of thing. And they usually do. They usually talk about that kind of stuff. Now, I read their articles, and 9 times out of 10, they're pretty close to what the Bible actually says. Okay, these people are all supposed, THDs, PhDs, and biblical. So, of course, I have a THD, which is in theology, versus, a PhD, which is philosophy. So, anyway, they say sometimes, I've heard others call seminary, when you go to seminary, some people refer to that as cemetery. And, there's a lot of things they teach you in seminary is what the instructor wants to teach you. It's kind of like when you go into a regular college. You've got regular colleges that if you go into biology, they're going to teach you biology. But then you've got some others that say, well, we're going to teach you something that's really not biology, but we're going to claim it's biology. So that kind of stuff, some of that is the professor's own opinion. So we've got professors that, they're full-blown lunatic liberals on the lunatic left, and, they want you to, abort your babies, eat them probably, the whole 9 yards. So, there are sickos everywhere. Now, I'm not saying they get that bad in cemetery, right? But all these people that I'm referring to in these magazines like this right here, most of them claim to be graduates of some type of seminary. Okay? That's how they're in these big fancy shiny magazines. They cost lots of money. They all wear suits and ties, and they've got really nice pictures. Maybe that's what I should do. Maybe somebody would take me more seriously if I had a suit and tie on. You think? I don't know. The hair and stuff may not work. These guys have got to be clean shaven, boy. They got to have suits and ties the whole 9 yards. You got to take them serious. So in other words, everything they say, you can take it to the bank. In other words. Okay, so what I thought I would talk about on this particular one is this magazine comes in thanks to a subscriber, and I thought it was pretty funny because we have everything matched on this. We have the title, and it has a background of Mars, right? And then we have the planet of Mars on the front there, and we talk about Cydonia, the secret chronicles of Mars. I mean, that's a pretty cool name, right? I mean, especially the way I say it, right? Cydonia, the secret chronicles of Mars, right? Expecting an alien to pop out, right? About like this one right here, this smoking alien right here. And I don't promote smoking. Okay, I don't condone it. I condemn it. But there he is. He's a little alien, off the X-Files. It's fake. All right. So, Cydonia. In case you don't know anything about Cydonia, let me refresh your memory or teach it to you. Hold on one second. Let me get my screen pulled up. Okay, I've got it pulled up. This is like a Wikipedia deal. Okay, this is like official information. Now, when I say official, I'm talking about, of course, Wikipedia is also known as Wikidpedia. They're a full-blown left lunatic deal. Okay, just FYI. They get their information, and like this information here probably comes from NASA. So, consider the source is what I'm trying to say here. Okay, I mean when your source is a demonic institution who worships Satan openly, you may need to take that in consideration. Okay, so here's what they say Cydonia is. Cydonia is a region in the northern hemisphere of Mars, located in the transition zone between the heavily cratered highlands of the Arabia Terra and the smoother plains of, Aciladia Plantia. Right. By the way, if this seems, let me do a caveat here. If this seems really, really far out there, like Star Trek, that's because it is. This is just as fake as Star Trek is. Keep that in mind. It became world famous in 1976 due to the low resolution. Hey, you got to hand it to them. At least they admit their low resolution, right? Yeah. It became famous, world famous, in 1976 due to the low resolution images from NASA's Viking 1 orbiter, which revealed several intriguing landforms that some interpreted as possible artificial structures. So, let me tell you what supposedly happened. Fake NASA. Well, let me back that. Let me tell you what is reported. A space agency who actually goes to space called NASA developed a spaceship, satellite type spaceship that people aren't in, but it goes out on its own and does its own thing, right? And it sailed out here to Mars, and it sent pictures back of the planet of Mars. And these pictures were grainy and blurry and low resolution, but you can clearly see a face in one of the pictures. And you can supposedly see some pyramids. So when these pictures were released, somebody says, oh, look, a face on Mars. That must be somebody built it. And since Hollywood has made all kinds of movies about that face on Mars, okay? And there's supposedly a pyramid on Mars. And they've made all kinds of Hollywood and Hollywood movies about pyramids on Mars. So it's a really good Hollywood deal. Okay, so that's what they tell you. Here's what really happened, in my opinion. The money laundering entity known as NASA took all your money in taxes and bought people Rolls Royces, Bentleys, and mansions and, beachfront property, whole 9 yards, made people billionaires. And in return for your tax money dollars, you got some grainy, fuzzy pictures that somebody made up. And the reason they put a fake face on there is to get people thinking that, oh, look. So they want the conspiracy thing going. That way they can keep perpetuating the lie. You see? So you wouldn't want to just give them all just, craters like they do on the moon. You've got to put something a little salty in there to get people to talk about it. So you dump out a fake face. And I'm going to show you a picture. Let's get her pulled up here. Let's see if this will do it. Well, where is it? There it is. There it is. There is the face on Mars, if you can see this, okay? It looks like a shadow of a nose, a mouth, an eye, maybe some kind of a headdress on it. And it's got the rest of it's in the shadow. And that's what they gave you. Okay? Now, what this black and white dot, or these black dots scattered all over everything, who knows? I'm sure, whoever made up this picture at NASA, probably dumped salt and pepper on it. Who knows? It's that ignorant, okay? And so there's the face, And then we have, here's a pyramid. Let's see if we can see it. There we go. There it is. There's a pyramid. Supposedly, they looked at it all, and it's, some people say that it's a man-made, or let's just say not man-made, but a structure that's not naturally occurring. Okay? It's artificial. So the only logical explanation is that Martians built it. Okay? So that is the famous face on Mars, and then that was one of the pyramids. So that got people going, saying, see, aliens are real, and yada, 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 because an alien did this, or somebody did it. But see, that's the sidetrack. If they get you thinking about the face on Mars, then it kind of goes without saying that you must believe you can get to Mars, right? We know that you can't really get to Mars, and there's no probe circling Mars, okay? Mars is not a planet because they don't exist, okay? Everything you've learned about planets is from Hollywood, Cartoon Network, and satanic fake space agencies. That's where you learned it. There's no other place you learned it other than that. Okay? So you take away that, you wouldn't believe it either. So what we get is we get fake pictures of Mars, fake pictures of aliens on Mars, fake pictures of rovers on Mars, fake pictures of fake helicopters on Mars flying around. That's the kind of stuff our tax dollars go to. And let's just pretend for a second that it was real. We still wouldn't need to be doing it, would we? We wouldn't need to be wasting billions and billions and billions of dollars on junk like this, would we? In fact, I heard a guy, he supposedly had done the math on this, and the amount of money that's been going to NASA every day since the 50s or 60s or whenever they came into being, right? The amount of money has been going to them for this junk they show us, like the face on Mars, right? They could have built like thousands of hospitals across the whole United States of America, and every single operation, every visit, everything could have been paid for and free with the money they've spent on this junk. Think about that. I mean, healthcare is through the roof. People don't have healthcare. That's all they're talking about is healthcare for this, healthcare for illegals, healthcare for everybody. They have the money. They've had the money. They've been taking money from taxpayers since the 50s, late 50s, for this junk, for Mars and the moon, all the fake space. That money added up could have given everybody in the whole United States of America free healthcare for life, and all the hospitals and all the staff and everything paid for. But they choose to spend the money on this junk. And then you want to go have a baby, it costs you $10,000. Or if you go to spend the night at the hospital because something's wrong with you, $5,000 that you can't pay. And your insurance is $1,000 a month. I mean, do you see the problem here? So even if this was real, this pretend, fake, make-believe bull crap was real, it's still wasting your money. Because we don't need to go there. We would need to spend the money here to fix things up, not on a fake planet. You get it? There's nothing they can do there. If it was real, there's nothing they can do there. There's no air there. There's no food there. There's no water. There's nothing they can do there. You couldn't live there, so what's the point of going there? You see? So, however, it's all fake. So now that we know what Cydonia is, we know what Mars is, right? And we know that we've got fake helicopters on Mars, rovers on Mars. And in case you didn't notice, like on this last podcast that I did before this one with Flat Earth Dave, okay, he brought up the pictures. I actually had those pictures already, and I was wanting to do a podcast on it, but I just didn't really know how to do it because, well, I'm trying to keep this a kid-friendly podcast, right? I don't want to really talk about anything, and there's no cussing, there's no nothing. So, you get a guest on here and they do a little bit of cussing or something. Yeah, I apologize for that. But one of the things that he mentioned, and he did bring up the pictures, which I have those same pictures, is, and I've told you this before, NASA and most of our government, well, they're Satan worshipers, okay? They worship pagan gods. They always have. And if they tell you they're worshiping Jesus, it's not the Jesus of the Bible. It's not the Jesus that I worship, okay? If it's a Christian, it's not the Jesus that you worship. It's not the same God. This goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, where all of their gods back then, their pagan fake gods, were all sexual in nature. And I'm going to try to make this as PG as possible. You're going to have to use your imagination, okay? Imagination. That's what you're going to have to do. So use your imagination, okay? They worshipped a bunch of pagan gods. Their form of worship was to have giant sex parties, okay? That's what they did. They went to these so-called worship centers, and their worshiping was having sex with everybody, okay? All of the pagan gods were sexual in nature. Lots of them were half man, half woman. They had both sets of body parts. That's why we get trans today. This whole trans thing, that is not new. That goes all the way back to the Canaanites, all the way back to the Babylonians, all these fake gods. It goes all the way back, okay? So they're worshiping false gods that are part man, part woman, and part of their worship deal was for the men to dress up like women and the women to dress up like men and vice versa. So they were doing tranny stuff all the way back then for the devil. That's what it's about today, devil worship. Okay? So their little pictures of all their little fake false gods, they all have full-blown body parts on them like male appendages. Okay? You understand what I'm talking about, right? So that's one of the things they worshipped, was the male appendage. So they created statues with that. The statues had these big male appendages on them. Everything revolved around the male appendage. And that's what they do today. That's why lots of these churches, and I've went over this before, I'm not saying your church is bad if it has it, but lots of church buildings were mimicking old Roman buildings, and they had a thing on the roof sticking up, a steeple. And here it doesn't mean that per se, okay? Because obviously, but the building it was copied from, the ancient Roman buildings, that was a male appendage. That's what that was about. Everything is about the male appendage to the devil. So that's why all their rockets look like a giant male appendage. Everything revolves around that. And when you look at the pictures, I'm trying to get to the pictures, back to the pictures. You look at the picture that the Mars rover, dug into the sand. It shows its tracks. Guess what its tracks look like? Well, a male appendage, of course. And then they show you the trajectory of the rocket, how it's going to go around, and it shows it all drawn out. The male appendage. It's over and over and over. That's what the big things that are outside, Washington, D.C., those big monuments out there that came from Egypt, those are male appendages. So, and when you look at the rockets that they're putting up, they purposely make it look like a male appendage. Okay? They do that on purpose. So that is a big thing with these guys, okay, is pagan god worship, fake pagan, Egyptian, Babylonian, all the way back. That's what they're doing. Okay. So anyway, I digress on that. But the point being is that is who we're paying all our tax money to show us these things. That's what they're doing. And they come back with these grainy, fuzzy, crappy pictures, and that's what your tax money's funding. Okay? So now we go on where we're talking about the face on Mars, the pyramid on Mars. We go on and it says, this is Wikipedia here, that higher resolution images from later missions, because we just keep sending missions up there. That's where all the money's going, right? Mars Global Surveyor in 1998 and 2001. We also had one called Mars Express and one called High Rise. And they took pictures of this same area, and it says they clearly show it's a natural eroded hill. The facial features are the result of shadows and angles. It's not really a sphinx head or whatever. And the pyramids, they're just natural geological formation shaped by billions of years of erosion and possibly ancient water or ice. So, first we hook you with the fake Mars pictures, a face on Mars and pyramids on Mars. Once we get that out there, Hollywood runs with it and produce probably hundreds of movies about Mars. And some of them are pretty good movies, but they're fake, okay? I even saw there's an old Doctor Who movie from the 60s. It's not a movie, Doctor Who, but, the pyramids on Mars, and it all goes back to Egypt. They ran with it, okay? Then they come out and say, well, we've sent more probes back, just for all the skeptical people, and it's not really a face, it's just shadows. So then you've got people arguing whether or not NASA's trying to hide the fact. This is a key here. Now the conspiracy is NASA's trying to hide the fact that there's proof of aliens on Mars. So they're purposely scrubbing the picture so we can't verify it. Again, keeping you believing you can get to Mars, which you can't. Keeping the simpletons believing that there are aliens on Mars, or used to be, which there aren't. Okay? So, again, here we go. We've got all this stuff, right? I would expect that, I don't have the book here, I would expect that from a science fiction book. Okay? No problem. Oh, you like Star Trek? Here you go. Here, read about the pyramids on Mars. Oh, you think you're a Martian? Well, here, look at the face on Mars. Oh, you like Battlestar Galactica? More power to you. It's some cool sci-fi, but those are all just actors right here, okay? So let me calm down here. So I can see all that in a science fiction magazine. Tech magazine, maybe. Star Trek magazine. Whatever. But Prophecy Watchers magazine that has to do with what? Biblical? But we're focused on Mars again. Why do you think that is? Well, because supposedly the president here is fixing to come out with all kinds of stuff on aliens. Aliens. They've actually, not only do they have alien ships, according to the news, they've actually got the bodies. They've got actual bodies of aliens, living or dead. I don't know yet. Big disclosures coming up. That's what they claim, Well, that's to mislead you once again, to keep your eyes off of, $5.50 here, diesel, $5 a gallon fuel, Epstein files vaporized. Nobody gets in trouble or arrested for anything they're doing wrong, except you or me. So let's keep everybody off that. Now let's start talking about aliens again. Okay? And so that way, when the Antichrist shows up, we'll just claim he's an alien. No problem. and then everybody will follow him. Or when people like me and other Christians get raptured up out of here, they'll say, oh, kidnapped by aliens, or something of that nature. There's no such thing as a God. It was an alien. You see? So let's get into the magazine. Okay. The article in here, Cydonia, the Secret Chronicles of Mars. The article was pretty good. I mean, what it had to do with, other than this point I want to make. And basically, the lead up to this is Cydonia, this guy here, Cydonia had shattered my paradigm into 1,000 pieces, compelling me to contemplate the Bible narrative from an expansive galactic perspective. Wow, that's a mouthful. I think what this really, if you wanted to sum this up, what he's trying to say here is him believing anything about this Cydonia thing. It basically makes you doubt what the Bible says, because you can't have one without the other. I mean, if the Bible says it's flat, non-rotative, you can't have it rotating and spinning. So you need to pick one. So this guy was probably pretty tuned into the Bible until somebody convinced him about Mars, aliens on Mars. And so now we have to rethink everything and say, I've got to think about the Bible in a galactic perspective instead of reading Genesis and believing what it says. But hey, do whatever you want, buddy. Believe whatever you want. Okay? But let me read you the highlights. Okay? Now this guy, you know, he's you'd have to read the article. It's written in a way that you just about have to have a doctorate degree to understand it. Everything's beating around the bush to get to one thing, just like that title. Okay. But anyway, during this stuff, when he's contemplating this stuff, right? He says, I sat in my reading chair beneath a portrait of Isaac Newton. And he was leafing through Cydonia once more. I guess reading through it, right? We couldn't say reading. We couldn't say looking. We have to say leafing. But first red flag. Why would any Christian, this is my opinion, why would any Christian person who is a Bible believer have a portrait of Isaac Newton on his wall? Just curious. Isaac Newton. Well, do you know who Isaac Newton is? Let me read him about you. In this book, of course, this is my book, Flat Earth Bible. Let's see. Whatever chapter that was, there's a chapter. Who was Isaac Newton? Let me just read you a little bit about Isaac Newton. Okay? In 1687, Sir Isaac Newton published Principia Mathematica, introducing his concept of gravity to explain the unseen force that held objects to the Earth's surface. So right off the bat, he's a devil and a liar. There you go. The globe Earth model at that time faced scrutiny because the natural physics of spinning spheres would imply that anything on its surface would simply fly off, which is what happens in real life. But not fantasy, not devil fantasy. Okay? All right. How then could oceans, people, and structures remain securely attached to an Earth spinning faster than the speed of sound? That's still a good question. That's my question. To address these concerns, the globe Earth model needed a force that was strong enough to keep the oceans and atmosphere held to the Earth, yet gentle enough to allow boats to float, birds to fly, and plants to grow unaffected. Sir Isaac Newton proposed gravity as a universal magical force capable of acting over great distances, powerful enough to keep everything bound to the earth, but undetectable by any practical means of measurement of the time. His ideas met with criticism. Of course they would, right? As some viewed the notion of an invisible force as introducing mysticism into science, especially given its ability to act across empty space. Despite the criticism, Newton's theory of gravity became central to the scientific explanation of planetary and celestial motion. Keep in mind, to have gravity, if it was real, it's fake, and to have all this celestial motion means you had to have had the Big Bang. You see? All this is derived from the Big Bang. You can't have one without the other. So, Christian, tell me all about the Big Bang. Oh, I don't believe in the Big Bang. But I believe that the earth is spinning and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so you believe in the byproducts of the Big Bang, but you don't believe in the Big Bang. Make up your mind. Why don't you pick a side? Biblical or fantasy? Okay. Let's see. According to the story behind Newton's theory of gravity, it all began when he observed an apple falling from a tree at Woolthorpe Manor. Remember that? The apple supposedly fell on his head or something is what they always show. Something stupid. Unlike anybody before him, he was said to have had a breakthrough realization. The apple did not fall because it was heavier than air, like most people would believe, but because of an unseen force pulling it toward Earth's center. A magical force. Newton then developed his theory of universal gravitation, proposing that this force of gravity not only cause objects to fall, but also govern the motion of celestial bodies. So now we're getting out into Star Trek realm, aren't we? Newton suggested that gravity was responsible for keeping moons in orbit around planets and planets in orbit around stars, even though there's no proof of any of that. With the strongest gravitational pull coming from the most massive nearby bodies. Thus, at a human scale, gravity was supposedly what caused people, buildings, and oceans to stay grounded on Earth, while at a larger scale, it maintained the orbits of moons and planets. And by the way, it's very selective at what it uses, by the way. It only gravitates on some things, and some things it lets go. It's smart. It's intelligent. However, this theory raises questions. How could gravity act differently at different scales? Good question. Keeping people fixed on Earth while simultaneously causing planets to orbit the sun. This duality of gravity's effects remains a point of curiosity and debate, and it requires the same force to produce very different outcomes based on scale and context. For example, why has the sun's gravity not pulled the moon away from the Earth? According to Newton, the larger the body, the more the gravity. Supposedly, the sun is huge compared to the Earth, but yet it doesn't pull the moon away from the Earth. It doesn't pull the Earth into the moon, or the sun, the Earth into the sun. It doesn't pull the moon into the sun from the Earth. It doesn't add up. So, they claim that the sun is 100 times bigger than the Earth, yet the Earth's gravity is holding the moon in place, not the sun's. So his theory don't mean much whenever you talk about large bodies and the sun is supposedly 100 times bigger than the Earth, but it doesn't have the power. It's fake. Okay? By the way, that's the Flat Earth Bible. It's on Amazon if you're interested. There's the problem, right? Newton's a liar and a devil. He's either is or being used to perpetuate false claims to get you to believe in the Big Bang. So now, again, why does a Christian guy in a magazine have a picture of Isaac Newton and in fact he talks about it several times in here, and my portrait of Isaac Newton, and he was under a portrait of Isaac Newton. Is that supposed to mean something? I mean, is that supposed to impress somebody? It doesn't. Okay. So we go on, and the guy says, Cydonia had shattered my paradigm into 1,000 pieces, compelling me to contemplate the biblical narrative from an expansive galactic perspective. So you start believing in Star Trek. Okay, congratulations. You're another, NASA fanboy now? Wow. Impressive. Let's see. And here's how we get this into a biblical magazine. Here's the jump, okay? Hidden within the pages of the Bible. Really? Where? Hidden in the pages of the Bible were veiled allusions. Yeah, allusions. To a cosmic war that raged long before the creation of man. Chapter and verse on that, please. That's what I thought. And to its chief antagonist, that serpent of old, the devil, whose ancient habitation was the fearsome red planet of Mars. Here we go. The devil was living on Mars. And so him and his fallen angels had a war with God. And, they built a bunch of structures on Mars. They just decided to move on to Mars. They don't need air or anything like that. And then apparently they had a battle, an illusion here, okay? Our illusion is they had a battle, I guess, with God, right? And who? The angels. And their cities on Mars were tore up. And but they built them. And so this face and all these structures and stuff are left over from the devil living on Mars. Now, why the devil in a spiritual form would need to build buildings? There's no air on Mars. There's no grass on Mars, according to the pictures, right? There's nothing there. So I don't know what the purpose of building the building would be for. You don't need water. You don't need food. You don't need shelter. You're a spirit. You don't have a physical form unless you take, you're floating around Mars. Why do you need a face on Mars? This is hogwash, is what this is. Okay? Let's continue. So he goes on, about all the stuff. And he starts talking about this guy, because some other guy wrote a book called The Secret Chronicles of Mars. And he read the book and was just, oh, Mars. So in other words, he read a sci-fi book and kind of left the Bible a little bit and now believes in Mars. Aliens on Mars. But now, of course, he doesn't believe in aliens per se. He's thinking that it's the devil on Mars. Either way, you're in outer space. So you're still there. So he's talking about this guy, and he says this guy, he unveiled the occult origins of NASA's rocket program. Okay, now I can agree with that. They'd have occult origins, just like I told you. It goes all the way back to appendage worship and fake trans god worship. That's what that is. So yeah, NASA's origins are dark. They're devils. That's a given. Okay? But here's where we get lost again. We're fixing to get lost. Okay? So the origins of NASA's rocket program, whose secret objective was to put a man on Mars and recover the lost knowledge of an angelic civilization hidden within the ruins of colossal monuments scattered across its cratered surface. So, did you get all that? He believes that NASA is real. NASA is sending probes to Mars, and they discovered ruins on Mars, and these ruins are actually from the devil, okay, fallen angels, and they want to go up there and collect those ruins. They want to learn about the devil. Okay, so Their secret is to put a man on Mars and recover the lost knowledge of this angelic civilization that's hidden within these colossal monuments scattered across Mars. Now, some of the stuff in the magazine wasn't too bad, okay? But now we're way out there. Welcome to Star Trek, right? So not only are they promoting in this magazine Mars, they're promoting all of the planets as NASA described them, which are all satanic in nature, pagan, named after pagan gods. And to justify it, I guess they really believe this, that they actually believe that NASA wants to go up there and find out information from fallen angels on Mars. Newsflash for those that don't understand. Why bother going to Mars for it when it's right here on Earth? The devil's right here on the earth. So is his fallen angels. Why would you need to go to Mars for anything? If it was real, it's not, it's fake. But let's pretend that it was real. Why would you need to go up there and look at monuments that are disintegrated in the dust? They've got monuments right here in Egypt. The Bible is full of all the stuff. It tells you everything you want to know. If you think you want to know any more in depth because you don't believe everything that the Bible says, pick up the book of Enoch. A lot of people read it. It goes in a little more depth. Why would you need to go and look at anything on the planet Mars? You wouldn't. And it's not a planet as they describe. I don't believe that any of these planets all they are is wandering stars. And stars are not what you think they are, and they're not billions of miles away. They're in the firmament. They're really close. That's why in Revelation it talks about the stars falling from the sky. Okay? They're not what you think they are. They're not what NASA says they are. The NASA deal and the space deal is fake. It's a hoax. Now, if you don't believe that, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know why anybody this day and age would still believe that. Get on YouTube, okay? Get on flatearthdave.com. Get on itsflatbro.com. Go check out the videos, astronauts hanging from wires. Everything they do is CGI. Everything they do is fake. This Mars stuff is fake too. Okay? Space, as described by a satanic organization, is fake. It's designed to mislead you. It's designed to keep you away from God. It's designed to get you to burn in hell. That's what it's for. Okay? Get real. This whole space deal spawned from Big Bang. Big Bang spawned from, remember, nothing exploding into something, and there was no God, and there is no God, and you evolved over billions of years by strictly chance, and man is getting better and better and better, and someday we're going to evolve into aliens and go back to Mars. That is Hollywood. That is Star Trek. It's fake. Okay? Get your mind out of the gutter. Okay? And get it into the Bible. And actually figure out what's going on. Okay? This is all fake. This is designed to get you thinking about this kind of stuff so you'll believe in aliens. So they can spring aliens on you here pretty soon and claim that the devil in front of you is not really a devil from the Bible. Oh no, don't believe in that. It's an alien and he's come here to help you. But don't worry, you'll be in hell soon. Okay? That's what they want. So keep believing this bull. That's the road it's going to take you to hell. So, but it's kind of hard not to believe it when they put it in Christian magazines, ain't it? These kind of stories need to be in science fiction magazines. not in magazines talking about the end times. But see, they want to mingle it together. Everything has to be together. We can't go by what the Bible says and agree with it and agree with the Word of God. Oh, no. We have to go out and look for a satanic organization who has satanic occult origins and who worships Satan openly. Just like on their latest little satanic, Artemis, which is a goddess, a pagan goddess. I've got more to talk about on that. Temples of Artemis. That was a big deal back in biblical days. They had Artemis everywhere. Of course they did. It's pagan. That's why their astronaut on his hand has got a picture of Baphomet with satanic symbols all across his fingers, and that's the picture they show you. You're going to believe them over the God in the Bible, over the Holy Bible. A satanic organization that's openly satanic, by the way. They don't even hide it. They don't have to. People are too dumb to realize it. So they don't even try to hide it. They purposely put it out there. They show you what they're worshiping it, how they're worshiping it, who, where, all the whole 9 yards. They show you the picture. They show you the picture of the Baphomet they're worshiping. How are they worshiping it? Well, with the same fake pagan male appendage gods they always did. That's why everything looks like that. You get it? This is fake. So, Cydonia on Mars, boy, that'd be a really good Star Trek episode, wouldn't it? But biblically, fake. In reality, fake. But I tell you what, it sure is a good thing. It sure is a good story to get the kids, Mars, pyramids on Mars. Get real. Okay? Get real. Wake up. Wake up. You've been lied to your entire life by Hollywood, Cartoon Network, the fake news, the textbooks that come from the Rockefellers, the whole 9 yards. And your mama didn't lie to you because she was lied to. She thought it was the truth. Your grandma wasn't lying to you. She was lied to. She thought it was the truth. Your favorite school teacher that you love, they weren't necessarily lying to you because they were lied to. That's how they were taught. This has been going on back since Isaac Newton. He's one of them that helped start it and get it kicked off. So yeah, tell me how good of a Christian you are and show it to me by putting up a picture of Isaac Newton, or how about a Jesuit priest? Why don't you just put a picture of Baphomet behind you and then try to convince me how good of a Christian you are? I mean, put it in a Christian magazine. I was writing my Christian chronicles about Mars and the pyramids on Mars. Right below my portrait of Baphomet. Seriously? Why not? Right? I mean, you're just about there anyway. So, having said all that, another Christian magazine. All I see from these Christian magazines is they push face. They push face, all right. Fake space. They push Big Bang. All of it. That's all they talk about is expanding planets from the Big Bang. Hey, I guess as God said he created it when it was done. It's finished. It's not ever expanding. It's not moving. It's finished. Oh, no. God's a liar. God's a liar. Don't you know that? NASA's telling the truth. You know the ones with the Baphomet as their emblem? They're telling the truth. God's the liar. The Bible says the devil's the liar and the father of lies. But we're going to go ahead and do everything that a demonic fake space agency says. We're going to go by everything they do and say. Wake up. Wake up. Get your Bible out. Do some reading. Read Genesis. Read the first page. It describes the firmament. Go into Job. Read about the firmament. Go into Psalms where King David wrote about the firmament, Psalm 19. Go check it out. And then what you need to do is believe the Bible. Don't believe this. Okay? This is not the Bible. This is a magazine. Okay? And do you know where this one's going to end up at the end of the day? In the trash can where it belongs. That's where it's going to end up. Because it's a piece of trash. 90% of what's in there, depending on each episode, each printing, lots of it's garbage. There are some good things. But, you know, it's like I've said before, you can take a cup of something really, really good, but then you start adding some poison to it. How many drops of poison can you take in this really good glass of, let's say, iced tea before it kills you? That's what we have with these magazines. We've got a pretty good glass of iced tea here to start with, and then we start adding in fake this, fake that, couple more drops of fake space. Hey, why don't we go ahead, while we're at it, add in some fake perverted Bible versions and promote stuff that's not in the Bible? Let's a couple more drops. How many drops do you have to get before you're drinking sewer water? Okay? Think about that. So you got a little bit or a whole lot of truth with a little bit of poison in it. Well, hey, that's what rat poison is. Did you know that? It's like 99% really good food and 1% poison. But that 1%, it gets them every time. You see what I mean? Gets them every time. They gobble it up, and then they fall over dead. Anyway, having said all that, hey, thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in again. More podcasts to come. We just keep cranking them out, or I'm trying to. Yeah, check out TikTok. Check out Patreon. It's flatbro.com. Truth Seekers Podcast. No. truthseekersradio.com. KennyWilliamson.com. Or truthseekersministry.org. So there's a whole bunch of different ways to get to this stuff and a whole bunch of different ways to contact me. My email is truthseekers2012@gmail.com. Keep leaving me comments. Keep sending me emails. I'm going to do more episodes on that. I read those comments. I like them, and I go search out the stuff. So thanks again for listening. Until we meet again, God bless you.